Many Italian mafia organisations in recent decades have also been making a name for themselves abroad. In particular, the Ndrangheta has managed to develop and gain power in all continents, and today is counted among the most dangerous criminal associations on the entire planet. So how have mafia groups managed to carve out a territory even abroad, from Europe to the United States and even Australia? When did it all begin? Well, according to several studies, the first mafias developed in Italy in the mid-19th century, after the unification of the country. The situation was quite turbulent in the south of the country because the Bourbon kingdom's rule of the south of Italy had ended, and the Savoy kingdom that was supposedly in charge of the region had been unable to exert powerful control over this vast territory. So the consequence was a significant degree of anarchy and the emergence of criminal groups in various parts of that country. So in the 1900s, the American dream attracted not only numerous populations fleeing misery and war, but also, of course, criminal organisations. The migratory flows of the 1950s allowed the Ndrangheta to establish itself in the United States, Europe and even Australia. Now let me take this opportunity to say hi to our friends and supporters in the US, Australia and Europe. We do appreciate your support, and please don't forget to subscribe, hit that button, which does really help us a lot to keep these videos coming. But back to our story. So these lands, rich in opportunity, followed the Ndrine, which is the name of the Ndrangheta gangs, to form alliances with local criminals and organise a powerful arms and narcotics trade that today is amongst the most established in the world, and has of course attracted the attention of major international law enforcement agencies. And it should be mentioned that the first mafia to successfully establish itself abroad was the Cosa Nostra, the crime organisation from Sicily, which, by exploiting prohibition, managed to achieve considerable success in the early 1900s. But it's the Ndrangheta that has managed to keep this power constant, perhaps partly because of its particular sprawling structure that has benefited its establishments abroad. Europe is certainly the territory most affected and conquered by the Ndrangheta. The geographic proximity to Calabria and Italy of many European countries represented an advantage and an opportunity for fugitive criminals looking for a place to hide, and for the gangs that wanted to expand their trafficking. France immediately attracted the interests of criminal organisations, and according to recent investigations, mafia groups linked to Calabrian and Sicilian families are pretty well established in the territory. The French Riviera, in particular, is a place much exploited by mafiosi. The illegal activities that take place in the French territory are mainly aiding and abetting the hiding of bosses and other wanted criminals, money laundering and drug trafficking management. And don't forget that the southern coast of France has many access points, and of course that makes it ideal if you want to smuggle items in and out of a country. Germany is also a country with close ties to the Ndrangheta. The criminal organisation began settling on German soil in the 1950s during the migration of Calabrians to North Rhine-Westphalia. It managed to replicate here several structures similar to those in Calabria, and it gained power through fruitful investments in the hotel and restaurant industry. Since the 1980s, the Ndrangheta has also exploited the German territory for international drug trafficking, especially drugs from South America. And according to the intelligence agency, the BND, over the years, the mafia has also managed to infiltrate German politics. In 2007, the Duisburg massacre, a violent multiple mafia-style murder carried out outside Italy for the first time, highlighted the level of infiltration by the Ndrangheta into the German territory. And by the way, we have a video on that massacre that you should really check out. But what about Australia? Well, according to the Australian Federal Police, there are 51 mafia clans in Australia, and 14 of them belong to the Ndrangheta. Australia actually has a special and deep connection with the Ndrangheta, which has now been present there for about a century. There's also a legend that has some overlap with real historical events about the landing of the founders of the Mafia on the country's shores. 3 founders arrived with the ship Re d'Italia, which landed first in Fremantle, then in Adelaide and finally in Melbourne during 1922. And if you think about this legend is very similar to the story of Osso, Mastros and Carcagnoso, the 3 Spanish brothers, who, according to Mafia legends, founded the mob. So after landing, the first criminal groups turned to extortion and hemp cultivation. History also records some murders by the Calabrian underworld dating from 1922 to 1940. In the 1950s and 1960s, the underworld families born within the Calabrian community began to gain more power. And according to the Australian Security Services, criminals began to organise, and they estimated that there were about 300 members scattered in various territories from Melbourne and Victoria. Between the 1980s and the 1990s, the focus on drug trafficking expanded. And it can be said that today the Ndrangheta in Australia is very well established. Silent and deadly, it also has infiltration into politics, according to intelligence. And finally, of course, the United States. Well, there was massive Italian immigration to the United States in the early 1900s. And this, unsurprisingly, helped develop the US into the powerhouse that it is now. But it also fostered the development of criminal groups, especially linked to Cosa Nostra. And such was the latter's acquisition of power that it became an independent group, the American Cosa Nostra. Over the years, several Calabrian mobsters also went to the United States, but it's only since the 1970s that the Ndrangheta began to gain a significant foothold and power in the country, taking a prominent role in drug trafficking, of course. According to the FBI today, Ndrangheta families are particularly active in New York State and Florida. But in recent decades, the Ndrangheta has managed to play a prominent role in many territories around the world, coming to establish itself in most continents. Intelligence and law enforcement agencies in many countries have detected a major presence, in some places even at the political level. And of course, that is difficult to quash. The sprawling structure of this organisation has proven successful, and it's only through the cooperation of various international agencies that justice is able to contain and counter the power of one of the most dangerous mafias in the world. The tentacles run far and wide, don't they? Well, that's it for today. Do keep commenting and subscribing, and do let us know what you want to hear about in the future. We do appreciate all your comments. So until next time, ciao.